Hi, kiddo. I'm Grandma Goody, and I'm here to tell you a Bible story. But first, I have a question for you. Have you ever heard of someone who did something wrong, and then their mama or their daddy or their teacher asked them, "Why did you do that?" And they said, "Well, everybody else was doing it." Be on the lookout for a time when everybody's doing something that they should not be doing. Well, the story begins back long ago in the land of Babylon. Now there's a king by the name of Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebuchadnezzar built a giant statue. This statue was taller than almost like a 10-story building. This was a giant statue. And then he commanded all the top officials who worked for him. He commanded them, "You all come, and we're going to be here on the plains of Dura." And for miles around, you could see that giant statue. Now let me tell you about three fellas who are in that crowd. Now they had been taken captive when they were just teenage boys. And they had come from the land of Israel, where their mama and daddy and grandma and grandpa had raised them to worship the God of Israel, who had given them commandments. One of the most important commandments was, "You shall have no other gods before me, and you shall never bow down and worship a statue made of gold or any other kind of statue. You only worship the Lord your God." There was a herald, and he said, "Everybody, when you hear the music begin, bow down and worship the statue." And then the music blasted forth. So they're standing there, and they had a decision to make. Everybody else was going to obey that command, and they had to decide. So when they were just young teenagers and they were brought captive to this foreign land, they decided right from the beginning they would never disobey the commands of their God. And so they'd done that all through their lives, and God had rewarded them and promoted them and protected them. And the next thing we hear in the story, these tattletales, they went running to the king, and they said, "Oh, king, live forever. We were just out, and when the music played and everyone bowed down to worship before the statue you set up, there were 3 men of the captives of Judah, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-nego, and they refused to bow down and worship the statue. You said that the people who didn't would be thrown into the fiery furnace, and so we thought you'd want to know." Now, King Nebuchadnezzar, he had what you call a temper. He had a fiery temper to go with this fiery furnace. And he got very angry, and he commanded that they go arrest Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-nego and bring them before him to answer to him. And so King Nebuchadnezzar, he questioned them, and he gave them a chance to answer him. And he said, "Is it true what I have heard, that you don't worship my gods, and you refuse to bow down and worship before the statue that I set up? Well, anyone who disobeys that command will be thrown into the fiery furnace. So I'm going to give you one more chance. We're going to play that music just for you. And I want to watch you, and I want to see you bow down and worship that statue." And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-nego replied to King Nebuchadnezzar, "Even if you were to throw us into the fiery furnace, the God we serve has the power to save us. Even if he didn't save us, we still will not worship any idols, and we will not bow down before any statue." Well, King Nebuchadnezzar, he got so furious, his face changed with rage. And he was so angry. He said, here's what we're gonna do. And he commanded, make my fiery furnace 7 times as hot as it's ever been. And then you tie up these 3 and you just toss them right into that fiery furnace. And so he went and he got himself all seated on his throne, waiting to see them thrown into the fiery furnace. Now as King Nebuchadnezzar watched, he saw something that so amazed him that he leaped up, and he went from furious to afraid. And he said, wait, didn't we throw 3 men into the fire? And they were tied. What is this I am seeing? Can I believe my eyes? Because I see 3 men, and they are not tied up, and they are walking around in the flames like the flames aren't even there. And what is this I see? There's not just 3 men. There is a 4th, and he is like a son of the gods. He's like a divine one, and they're walking around in there together. And King Nebuchadnezzar, he didn't go too close, but he said, oh, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-nego, oh, servants of the Most High God, would you please step out of the fiery furnace and come here? I'd like to talk to you. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-nego walked out of the flames. And all of the officials, they're crowding around with amazement. And you know, the only thing that had been burnt up by that fire was the ropes that had tied them and bound them. But they looked at them, their clothes not burned, not a thread of their clothes was burned, not a button was melted. There was no smell of fire on their hair or anywhere on them, and they were just perfectly whole and untouched by the flames. Now King Nebuchadnezzar said, oh, may the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-nego be praised. He sent his angel and he rescued his servants. I am given a command. You are not allowed to say one word bad about the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-nego, because if you do, I will tear you limb from limb, and I'll make your house into a heap of rubbish. So there. And then the king honored Shadrach, Meshach, and Abed-nego, and he gave them another promotion, even higher up in the ranks of his officials in the land of Babylon. Let me show you where you can find that in your own Bible. It's in the Old Testament, and the book is the book of Daniel. And it's chapter 3 from verse 1 through verse 30. And if you're using the secret code, it's DAN and then the number 3 and the 2 dots, 1 through 30. And you remember, kiddo, Grandma Goody loves you, but God loves you more.